Dude, not only did we get Super Mutants and Ron Pearlman in the same episode, but both of those things are the same thing. Oh my god! Okay, I had so much fun watching this week's episode. There was just a whole lot of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood pointing at the screen.
Whoa, whoa. Here I come. Oh.
The marketing meeting at Vault-Tec at the beginning of the episode was just a brilliant way to start. It's so funny to watch them like nonchalantly discuss how too many 5 megaton blasts in their marketing imagery would be too busy relative to one 10 megaton blast. But yeah, it was just funny, like especially the cacophony of puff clouds, which also is one of my favorite words of all time. I remember learning that when I was in like high school or something, and I love that cacophony. Cacophony, it's a good word. We know that like Barb is one of the only people in Vault-Tec, based on her communication with the Enclave rep that we'll get to later in the episode. She's one of the only people that knows that like the bombs are actually coming. They're guaranteed to drop, and that they're going to be the ones to drop them. So it kind of makes sense that like Barb's having this moment of crisis because she knows what's coming. And these other Vault-Tec employees are so, it's very Fallout. They're very just kind of disconnected from it all. It's all very a frivolous topic to them. It's just another, marketing Monday at the office kind of thing. But as Barb's meetings are continuing throughout the day, I do love that they get the guy in there with the water chip, and he talks about like how they know 30% of them will fail, and they'll know ahead of time which ones will fail. And so we kind of get that reference to, dooming Vault 13 and Vault 33 in the show. I don't know, I just thought that was kind of funny. That they knew exactly what they were doing and they knew what would happen, but they don't give a shit. That's Vault-Tec for you. There was just like really good cinematography here too, and good storytelling, like starting off this cold opening with Barb's eyes and you just see the nuke, going off in her eye in that extreme close-up. And then to end this cold open before the title card, which was fucking awesome. We'll talk about that in a second. But to end it with the picture of her family in her eye in the same way, and then she has like the tear falling. Just really good visual storytelling there. It's just really well done. I just really appreciated it. But yeah, let's get on to that title card. They have been killing it this season with the title cards. Maybe one of you can remind me in the comments, but I can't remember if they did the title cards this way last season. But like an earlier episode in the season, I forget, it was 3 or 4, and where Shady Sands gets nuked, and then they have like, the nuclear fallout, the ash falling across the screen. We have the Mr. House episode where they go to Vegas, and it's like, the slot machine sounds and the Vegas lights going. And then I appreciated on this one, it starts off with the mind control device on the back of the neck, and it just turns to the side and you get the Fallout logo. Whoever's deciding how to do these and executing them gets a lot of props in my book, because they're doing a really good job on these. Oh, and holy shit, I didn't realize that the drugs that the Ghoul was like taking every episode kept him from going feral. I hadn't even really considered that. I assumed it was just like keeping him alive or something like that. Did we already know what its purpose was? Did they hint at that in a different episode? Let me know in the comments if the show's already told us what the drugs do. But from what I could remember, this is the first time we're seeing this and like understanding what it's really for. But yeah, damn, it was rough watching him go feral like that. There's a man who's like lost everything. And it's even more tragic because we know that end of the first season is that like Barb is a monster and she started all this, and then he's lost his daughter. We don't know anything about where they went, but now we know they're alive. We don't know for sure, right, that they're actually alive. We just know how much he's lost and how much he still has to lose. And then so watching him just like go feral, just impaled on this pole, was just so, I don't know, tragic and depressing. Oh my fucking god, that transition was beautiful. We have like the Ghoul, and he's like, it's like kind of his face, and he's upside down. He's right there, center frame, and then somebody walks across the frame and covers it so they can hide that transition, and then it cuts to him in like pre-war Vegas, where he's laying on the bed about to talk to Barb, and just a perfect match cut with that perfect transition over it. That was so good. Oh my god, that was so awesome. Just as like a cinema nerd and as a video guy, I really appreciate stuff like that. Any show I watch and they're doing great transitions like that, beautiful. Oh, but dude, Cooper trying to fight like going feral by like reciting his own name and then reminding himself that he has a daughter and that she's alive and that he needs to find her, and like that giving him the strength to like start pulling himself up the post. It was so brutal and like just kind of got me pumped too. And then he gets to the top and he grabs the top, and then you just know something's gonna go wrong. And then I think what happens is he starts like going feral again, and then so he like loses his grip and falls. And I found myself like out loud going like, no. So we get Lucy waking up in that executive vault, the Vault-Tec building underground, and then we see that like these 2 Legion soldiers are walking by. That kind of caught me off guard for a minute. I was like, what is going on? Then I realized, of course, they must be chipped. But then we see just how many people are chipped. So many people have been chipped by Hank already. So as far as these chips go, I love the moral complex choices that are kind of being posed to the characters in the show, like especially Lucy, and to us, right? It feels like it was kind of something pulled straight out of Fallout New Vegas. Like in the game, you're presented with like a few very specific political / philosophical choices, depending on like which faction you choose, right? So we have like House, right? He's a technocratic autocrat. And then there's the NCR, which is very much like kind of the United States trying to carry on. It's a liberal democracy. It has a lot of institutional decay, stuff like that. Then we have the Legion, which is very authoritarian, straight up, right? And like social Darwinism kind of thing, might makes right, all that. And then we have Yes Man, who's like kind of the radical individualist, I guess you could say, like the anarchist. And I feel like Hank here, just the essence of that, of what makes the game and all the different factions and choices you can make and which ideology you decide to go with, all that really interesting shit, right? I love that Hank kind of is masterfully manipulating Lucy and almost making a great case for Robert House. Like his case about how he's like trying to protect people from themselves, right? And that he's this one great mind steering humanity, and that democracy and choice prevents progress, and like forcing stability without people's consent. It sounds just like House and Fallout New Vegas. I know I made the argument last week, and most of you agreed. Some of you very strongly did not agree that they're representing House really well in the show. Maybe not in the beginning of the season, but I feel like later in the season now that they're doing a really good job. I think it's very accurate. But you have to admit that at the very least, and when you consider the game and what House represents in the game and how that all comes together and everything Hank is saying now, it sounds just like House. And this all made me realize, if it wasn't, already fairly clear, that Hank is definitely ultimately working for House. They hinted at that. I think it was at the end of the first episode. Yeah, he has to be. Like, he's spouting off his ideology and like talking about how, controlling all these people is what's best for them, and that they don't really get a say. They're happier now, even though they're being controlled when they fucking say that, right? So yeah, this is House. He's working for House. I'm excited to see where all that goes, because I think, along with most of you, House is definitely my favorite character in the show. Okay, really quick side note. The products of Inbreeding Community, that name is still fucking hilarious, by the way. That whole dance number that they do is very fun and kind of ridiculous. I love that we got Uranium Fever in the show finally. And I really appreciate it, again, as a video guy, cinema lover, that aspect ratio change kind of as we transitioned into his daydream of the party. Like, I wasn't entirely sure what it was supposed to be at first, but like, you see him like playing the piano and fingering a few notes and like doing it very poorly. And then all of a sudden it all comes together, and, and everyone's like dancing and great choreography, and you get, like I was saying, the aspect ratio change and a little bit of color correction change too and stuff like that. So yeah, it was definitely his, like, I don't know where that's all leading. Like what, maybe I'm forgetting something. You can remind me in the comments, but like what he's getting out of this party exactly. I remember she was just trying to get rid of him, Betty. And so maybe he just really wanted friends or something. I can't remember why he's doing this. Please remind me in the comments. But yeah, it's just funny to see this whole daydream sequence happening. And then Betty shows up with some riot, police to fuck it all up for him. All right. The moment we've all been waiting for. This was a perfect way to include Ron Pearlman in the show. I kind of like that he plays a super mutant here, because what's really cool about that is you can kind of imagine like this lone super mutant, out in the Mojave that is narrating, the beginning of each of these games, right? So it's just kind of cool to think about that, like, he's just a narrator as far as we've known in the past. But I like the idea that, he's actually a super mutant this whole time, just someone like kind of off in the distance, hiding away, seeing all these the churn of mankind and how one power rises and falls and decisions that the main character's making, stuff like that. I don't know. I just think that's really cool. But even if it's not, I just got so excited when I realized that like the creature that was walking up, this giant fucking creature that comes and knocks off the post and frees Cooper, was too big to be anything but a mutie. Like, he had to be a super mutant. You know, he takes Cooper and drags him off, and then the first like big hint, if you didn't already realize it probably was a super mutant, just the way they were hiding him and stuff and how big he was the gore bags that were hanging. They looked, you know, perfectly disgusting, which was awesome to see. And, you know, he drags the Ghoul off to this church. And I did appreciate, too, I saw that other people noticed this, but like heavy spoilers, he pointed this out first. But like there's the green uranium lamp like hovering over the Ghoul as he drags him into the thing, kind of keeping him alive. I just appreciated that little detail. It's something I missed at first, but I appreciate he caught that. And then we get into the church and he, you know, hangs him up. And he's just giving him the whole speech about how he should join them. And, you know, he references the Enclave and how the Enclave created, you know, the super mutants. And then they tried to discard them, but they don't forget about it. And all this great stuff, this great dialogue, a really good lore shit in there, right? And, you know, the Ghoul isn't really interested in joining them. But he still, you know, decides to save the Ghoul. And we get this really fucking cool shot, this dolly shot, where as it pushes in, through the hole in the Ghoul, revealing, you know, Ron Pearlman's super mutant holding the uranium on the opposite side of the hole. It goes through the hole, and then you just see him put the uranium like in the Ghoul back from the front again. What a cool fucking idea for a shot. That was so awesome. I just really appreciated that. It was really well done. And a lot of really good cinematography in this episode. Even the last few episodes there has been too. Yeah. Oh, I had to burp. Whoever the director of photography is, you know, props, because and Lisa Joy, who's an executive producer on the show and also directed this episode. I don't know, she did a fucking awesome job in my opinion. Also, seeing Pearlman as a greenskin, like when we got to actually see him up close, that it was a pretty close-up shot of his face, looked so good. It looked so good. Like the CGI just looked really good, and it looked a lot like Ron Pearlman too, which I appreciated. So I'm just so excited to see like where we go with the super mutants now that they've been introduced in the show. I also wonder if the place that Coop was taken is Jacobstown. I feel like it's most likely not, since that's super far away from the strip, right? And it didn't seem cold there either. But yeah, I don't know. It's probably not Jacobstown. They probably would have hinted at it more if it was. And maybe we'd get hints that there's more super mutants around, or Nightkin, or speaking of Nightkin, I really hope we get them in the show. You know, maybe this war he's talking about, maybe they can bring the Nightkin in for that or something and introduce Jacobstown as we go along. So, I don't know. But yeah, let me know if you think that they're going to include Nightkin this season or in the show at all. I wouldn't be surprised if they do it, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they don't, right? So, let me know what you think. As we, you know, near the end of the episode, we do have a few really good, fantastic reveals and like scenes with, you know, pre-war Vault-Tec and Barb and stuff like that. You know, we found out she's not really quite the monster that we thought she was, for the most part. At least it's more complicated than we realized. That's probably a better way to put it. She's like more of a middle manager, essentially. She doesn't really have that much power. You know, that's kind of what they were hinting at, is there's people so much higher above her, you know, in the Enclave and in Vault-Tec, that are making the real decisions. And if she doesn't comply, just like we see with the Enclave scientist, who we also find out is a pre-war guy, that he's been alive since before the bombs dropped. But he also hints at that idea, right? That, you know, he almost comes off as threatening at first, like, your family will die, you will die if you don't comply. But also he says the same thing will happen to me. Like they're all just cogs in this machine, right? Which feels very true to the Enclave and the greater powers that be. So I'm excited to see more from them for sure. I think this theme of the other player, which is the title of the episode, or like people being manipulated by higher hidden powers, showed through the whole episode pretty much. I thought they did a really good job of keeping that theme true to the whole thing. You know, we have the stuff with Barb and the Enclave. We have the stuff with Hank and Robco and Mr. House, he's clearly working for, right? I think that's pretty obvious at this point. So it's just, you know, everything feels like it's building up to something big as we introduce the Enclave, as we introduce the, you know, these higher powers that haven't really been revealed thus far in the show. I'm excited to see where all that shit leads, and I don't know, I'm just excited for it. One last thing, we do see Dogmeat somehow, not sure how he's doing this across the entire Mojave wasteland, but he finds Maximus and Thaddeus and brings them to the wounded coop. And I loved their lines where Maximus sees him and he's just like, fuck. And then the Ghoul sees him because they know each other, right? And he's just like, fuck. And then Thaddeus, in all of his glorious wisdom, and he just goes, hey. I don't know. Each of the lines was very true to their characters and very funny. And just another great, scene of dialogue that I appreciated. Just wanted to mention it. Honestly, this show has been so much fun to watch. There's things that are annoying. There's things they get wrong, of course, right? But, I'm able to kind of put that stuff to the side, the things that bug me, and like still enjoy the show for what it is. It's so fun. It gets the essence of what Fallout feels like, which is all it really needs to do. And because there's all these regular normies, right, that are going to watch the show that don't know any of the fucking lore or care about all the little details that, some of us pore over the years. We learn all this shit, right? I'm somewhere in the middle, right? I know a really good amount of lore, but I'm not like really hardcore like some of you guys. And yeah, so I feel like they're just writing that balance really well. They're making an entertaining show for normies, people that don't give a fuck about how deep the rabbit hole goes. And then I feel like they're at least trying, at least for people like me that are kind of in the middle, right? So yeah, I don't know. I feel like they're writing that line really well and doing a good job. It's almost an impossible Herculean task to get all of that in there and get people on all sides of the spectrum to understand what the fuck's going on in the show, right? So yeah, I don't know. I'm having a lot of fun. That's what it's all about, right? This is our hobby. We love games. We love these stories. And hopefully you're having as much fun as I am with the show. I appreciate you tagging along on these videos. I'm having a lot of fun making them and talking about it. I don't have a lot of friends that are into this shit. So talking to you guys about it very much feels like that outlet for me, where you're my friends that I can, gush about the show or bitch about things I don't like about the show to you guys. So yeah, if you like the video, if you think I earned a like or earned a sub, I'd appreciate that. If you dislike the video, dislike it. Thank you for tuning in, guys. I appreciate your time. I know it's valuable, so thank you for spending it with me. Hopefully see you next week for another great episode of this show. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye. See you guys.